The movie begins with a mailman delivering letters to the remote houses deep in the forest. He arrives at a house where a woman is washing clothes covered in blood. He keeps knocking on the door, but she can't hear him because she's listening to loud music. At that moment, the mailman hears someone calling for help from the basement of the house. He thinks someone is tied up or trapped and can't get out, so he decides to help. He opens a small wooden window and reaches his hand inside to pull the person out, but suddenly he's dragged inside with force and thrown to the ground. We don't see what happens to him afterward. 30 years pass, and we see a group of young people heading into the forest for a camping trip. One of the rules of the trip is that no one is allowed to use any device, no phones, no tablets, nothing related to technology. Parents send their kids on this trip to help them recover from their addiction to the internet and technology. When they arrive, the supervisor welcomes them and tells them this is their golden chance to overcome their addiction, get closer to nature, and discover themselves. Then the teens are divided into small groups, each with a leader who will guide them through the forest. Everyone hands over their phones and gets ready for the trip. In a small cabin in the forest, we see the same woman from the beginning of the movie. She has hunted a deer and is trying to drag it into the basement, but she slips and falls. Moments later, a huge monster appears and kills her. We return to the group of teens who are getting ready to enter the forest for 3 days. Izia appears. She's responsible for a group of 5 teens: Russia, who's very quiet, Daniel, the athletic one, Anila, Julik, and Bartek. Before they start their journey, a priest arrives in his car, greets everyone, and tells them that technology is the biggest threat to children and teenagers. He encourages them to break free from their addiction. Then he prays, sprinkles holy water on them and on their phones and devices. After that, everyone heads into the forest, each group following its leader. Izia enters the forest with her group. Julik becomes very interested in Russia and tells her that the necklace she's wearing is something he saw in a movie. She smiles and says it's a keepsake from her mother. Daniel starts flirting with Anila and annoying her, so Bartek warns him multiple times. They both insult each other and get into a fight. Suddenly Daniel punches Bartek and knocks him to the ground, cutting his leg badly. Before things get worse, the rest of the group rush in and treat Bartek's wound, stopping the bleeding. A little later, Julik finds a deer's corpse torn apart in a gruesome way. He panics and thinks a predator did this. He calls the others to check it out. Izia tells them hunters in the forest caused it, and that there's nothing to worry about, urging them to continue the trip normally. Russia looks around and sees a strange hand appear behind a tree. She gets scared but doesn't tell anyone. They continue walking until they reach a spot in the forest where they set up camp. Everyone pitches their tent and gathers around a fire to stay warm. Each person begins talking about themselves and their struggles. Julik tells them he's a pro gamer and has a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers, which made him skip school a lot. His dad got angry because he neglected his studies. He also says he was supposed to travel to Korea to compete in a tournament and win $500,000, but his father refused and sent him on this trip to treat his internet addiction. After everyone finishes talking, they go to sleep in their tents. Daniel can't sleep, so he goes to sit by a nearby lake and smokes. A few moments later, Anila joins him and smokes with him. They talk for a long time before she returns to her tent. Daniel pulls out a phone he had hidden inside his clothes and starts scrolling through websites, unaware that someone is watching him from a distance. Moments later, a huge, deformed man covered in boils appears and attacks Daniel, smashing him against a tree until he kills him. Then he drags his body away. In the next scene, we see Russia on a trip with her family. She's really happy, playing with her little sister in the car. Meanwhile, her father is taking a selfie with her mother. Suddenly, the car crashes and flips over. At that moment, Russia wakes up terrified, and it seems her whole family died in that accident. The next morning, the group prepares to continue their journey deeper into the forest, but they don't find Daniel in his tent. Everyone starts to panic. Izia asks who was the last person to see him, and Anila says she was the last one with him by the lake. They all head there to search, but he's nowhere to be found. Then they notice a lot of blood on a tree, so they freak out, thinking Daniel was killed. Izzy tries to calm them and says the blood on the tree isn't Daniel's blood, it's probably just red tree sap. After that, Izzy tells them they need to split into 2 groups to search for Daniel. Julik gets scared and tells them that in every horror movie, people die when they split up, and they should stick together, but no one listens, and they ignore him completely. Izzy then takes Russia and Julik with her to search, while the other 2 stay behind and wait for their return. After a short while, the 3 of them reach the house that appeared at the beginning of the movie. They decide to enter, hoping they'll find someone who can help them, but unfortunately, the house is empty. They notice a small door leading to the basement. They're scared to go down at first, but eventually they all descend. They are horrified when they discover a large number of bodies in the basement, and among them, Daniel's corpse. They have no idea what to do. At that moment, the huge man arrives at the house. The 3 panic and hide so he doesn't notice them. But the smell is so awful that Julik can't hold himself from gagging, and before he exposes their hiding spot, Izzy stops him. The monster goes down to the basement, and they have no idea how they could escape, until they spot the same small window from earlier. Julik and Russia quickly crawl out through the window. Izzy tries to escape too, but she sees Daniel's phone ringing in his pocket and tries to grab it. The monster blocks her path. She tries to attack him and kill him, but unfortunately, he overpowers her, kills her, and cuts off her head, throwing it outside the window. When Russia and Julik see her severed head, they panic and run for their lives. Meanwhile, Anila and Bartek are sitting by the lake talking. Each of them begins sharing their problems and what they struggle with because they feel different from the people around them. While they're distracted, the huge man appears behind them and hits Anila with an iron rod on her head, killing her in a brutal way. Bartek runs away in terror, and after some time, he reaches the church located in the middle of the forest. As for Russia and Julik, they find another house in the forest and knock on the door. An old man answers and lets them in. They tell him that a deformed monster killed their friends in the forest, and they're shaking with fear. They ask him for a phone to call the police, but the old man tells them he doesn't have one. At this moment, we discover that he is the mailman who was attacked 30 years ago. He lost his leg because of that attack, but somehow managed to escape and survive. He tells them there are 2 monsters, not one, they're twins. He explains that they were normal children, but one day, while playing in the forest, they found a strange rock that fell from a crashed aircraft. They took the rock home, and that night, a black liquid leaked out of it and entered their bodies, turning them into feral, human-eating creatures. The next morning, their mother woke up and saw them devouring their dog in a horrific way. From that day on, she locked them in the basement and hunted animals in the forest to feed them. After the old man finishes telling the story, he suggests that they stay with him and never go back into the forest. He reassures them that he has weapons and food. Julik likes the idea, but Russia refuses and says they can't just stay, they have to do something no matter what. They leave the old man's house, and Russia says they need to go get Daniel's phone to call the police. Julik has no choice but to go with her. At the same time, we see Bartek sitting with the priest we saw earlier, praying with him. Bartek tells him everything that happened and says they must call the police to save them from the monsters. But the priest tells him that his phone has no signal. At that moment, the phone starts ringing, and Patrick realizes that the priest has been lying to him and deceiving him. Before he can move, the priest hits him on the head, knocking him out. After a while, Patrick wakes up and finds himself tied to a chair, unable to move or speak. He sees the priest sitting in a chair in front of him, laughing, and telling him that he remembers him from last year when he came here. The priest starts insulting him because of his abnormal sexual tendencies, saying that people like him ruin society and deserve to die. Right then, the priest hears a noise coming from outside the house, so he goes out to check. Suddenly, the deformed monster appears, grabs the priest, gouges out his eyes, drags him away, and throws him into a wood-chopping machine, shredding his entire body. Back in the church, Patrick manages to free himself, and when he hears the monster getting closer, he hides quickly inside a small closet, but the monster still senses where he is. At the same time, Julik and Rosa arrive at the monster's house to retrieve Daniel's phone. They agree that Julik will distract the monster while Rosa sneaks inside to get the phone as fast as possible. Before he leaves, Julik hands Rosa a knife so she can protect herself if the monster catches her. Then he goes to the front door and starts knocking to draw the monster to him. The monster shows up and heads straight for Julik, while Rosa climbs into the basement through the back window and searches for Daniel's phone until she finds it. But the moment she turns around, she's shocked to see the monster standing right behind her. He grabs her by the neck and attacks her. Before she dies, Julik arrives and stabs the monster with the knife. Unfortunately, it has no effect because of how massive he is. The monster throws Rosa to the ground, knocking her unconscious, then attacks Julik and kills him brutally, cutting off his tongue. While unconscious, Rosa dreams again of the accident they had, seeing her father stepping out of the car before it explodes, his body engulfed in flames. He begs her for help, but she can't move to save him, and he dies in front of her. Rosa wakes up to find herself chained up, with Julik beside her covered in fatal wounds and the knife stuck in his stomach. She picks up Daniel's phone and turns it on, but the battery dies instantly. Julik, barely able to breathe or speak, asks her to kill him and end his suffering. She breaks down crying, but grants his final wish and ends his pain. She takes the knife, unlocks the chains, and frees herself. At first, she thinks of escaping through the window, but she remembers all her friends who were slaughtered by the monsters. She changes her mind and decides to finish them off just like they killed her friends. She searches the place and finds tools the monster uses to dismember bodies. Then she goes upstairs to where the monster sleeps. She finds him lying in bed and realizes his brother is out in the woods, not in the house. She attacks him and stabs him repeatedly until she's certain he's dead, then escapes before the second monster returns. Meanwhile, the old mailman is sitting in his house when someone knocks on the door. He assumes it's the monster, grabs his shotgun, and fires several shots through the door. When he steps outside to check, he realizes he accidentally killed Patrick, who had escaped from the monster at the church and was trying to hide. Rosa is shown running through the woods alone. After a while, she finds a police car and approaches it. The officer is shocked by her condition, and she's too traumatized to explain anything. He calms her down, hugs her, and puts her in the back seat of the car, which is basically a small holding cell. As they drive, the officer spots one of the monsters lying on the road. He stops the car and gets out to check on him. Rosa recognizes the monster immediately and tries to stop the officer, but he doesn't understand what she's trying to say. The second the officer approaches, the monster stands up. The officer panics and tries to shoot him, but it's too late. The monster strikes him with an axe and kills him brutally. Rosa witnesses everything. She jumps into the driver's seat and tries to start the car before the monster reaches her. The car doesn't start at first, and the monster climbs onto the roof, trying to kill her with his axe. At the last second, the engine starts and the monster falls off. Rosa refuses to run away. She decides to kill him just like she killed his brother. She reverses the car and runs him over multiple times until she's sure he's dead, then drives off. In the final scene, two drunk men are walking through the woods and find the monster lying on the road. Suddenly, he gets up. We also see that his brother is still alive at the house. And this is where our movie ends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.